let's dive in, Ricky Flex. Before we hit initial reactions, what did you think Captain America 4 needed to do in order to be considered a success?
I look back to Captain America Winter Soldier, and I did not have expectations of that movie going into Brave New World. But what did it do really well? It was Steve Rogers post First Avenger, post the Avengers, him leading the Avengers in an alien invasion, kind of proving himself worthy to lead the Avengers. But they grounded him, right? In this political spy thriller. And for this movie, I wanted to see, okay, this is the real first, hey, Sam Wilson's the new Captain America. We are grounding him. And and I'm not saying not with the wings. I'm not trying to do something punny or something. No, I mean like just, hey, Sam Wilson, let's see what you got as Captain America. All right. And when this trailer comes around, it's like, okay, yeah, we got this political thriller type of vibe here. You have Harrison Ford, who has done that to tremendous effect in Hollywood throughout his career in this political thriller. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then as more trailers come out, more teasers come out, it just turns into, and then also you hear rumors of reshoots, CGI, inflated budgets, rewrites. It's just like you're hearing bad things consistently with this movie. Writers being added, bad things on set, bad vibes on set. It's just like, okay. So for me, I just wanted to see Sam Wilson just become Captain America and take on the reins before we eventually get to Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and then the Avengers, because Captain America is a core Avenger. So I just wanted to see them set up Captain America itself before we get into these big MCU events. And what we got here was just a big mess, a big multi-plot, underwritten, exposition-heavy mess that didn't really answer the question of where Captain America sits in the MCU for me.
So that was a huge question mark that I had. I think when I was going to see this, I wanted to see if Sam Wilson was it was worthwhile to have a movie centering around his Captain America. That he's not just a part of a team or he's not a sidekick, right? He can carry a movie on his own, right? And honestly, I don't think he got a fair shot during this movie just based on the structure of it. And there's a lot of chaos around it. I wasn't expecting this to be a MCU banger, like we said, a movie that's going to bring the MCU back. But how is this Sam Wilson different from Steve Rogers? And I know there's a huge theme of like whether he's worthy of carrying this shield, and that's a huge theme of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. How are they going to move the story from Falcon and the Winter Soldier to this movie? What are they going to do different? Turns out not too much here. But I was just looking to get excited about Marvel again, heading into a massive year. Like, can you just make it a fun time at the theater and also tease the future with a super team coming, or at least a team up movie with Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four's their arrival in the MCU, and then even in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Daredevil. So this is not the one I was most anticipating or I think was going to perform the best, but can it just launch Sam Wilson into a worthwhile character that could potentially lead the Avengers? And that's what they tease in this movie, to lead the Avengers going forward. And I think jumping into initial reactions, I just think that they did Anthony Mackie a disservice with this movie. You know, I literally can't, I don't think he got a fair shake. And I think it's a lot has to do with the inclusion of, strangely, 2008's The Incredible Hulk. Characters from that movie, including a Hulk villain with the leader, Samuel Stearns, Tim Blake Nelson here. The other villain being Red Hulk, played by Harrison Ford, was William Hurt, right? Is a famous foe of the MCU Hulk that we have. Like Liv Tyler being a part of this movie, although it seems unnecessary. Having Sidewinder with Giancarlo Esposito. I felt like Anthony Mackie wasn't given time to shine, and he's a charming dude. He's like charismatic, you know, movie star, and I feel like you only got bits and pieces of him, and it felt like it was playing the same beats that we've already heard of whether he's worthy to carry the shield. So I think this movie overall, like, what saddened me is that this was supposed to be like the launching point for a new main hero in the MCU, and it feels like he really didn't take a step forward that I was hoping for, and that was the biggest flaw to me.
we already had questions about Anthony Mackie and if like he could be a Chris Evans Captain America, where yes, he is leading an Avengers pack of Thor and Chris Hemsworth, RDJ Iron Man. Just putting again retrospectively, a Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo Hulk. It's just like, is Anthony Mackie that big of a star to kind of lead these other stars? Right? We already had those questions, and for me, like I just want to see if he could be Captain America, right? Because Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was called Falcon in the Winter Soldier at first because it was like trying to live up to those expectations and becoming Captain America, and then had a lackluster finale, but he ends up being Captain America. And then this one tries to follow those same themes of like, am I worthy to be Captain America? Following Steve Rogers. Am I worthy to be a cap without the super serum? Right? It's followed very similar themes to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, something that we've already seen. And then on top of that, you have these Hulk storylines that we are not invested in a movie from 17 years ago, or right? 17 years ago, where you have a Thaddeus Ross who is a new guy, new actor again, but it's Harrison Ford, so we all love him, right? But it's still, and he's trying to rekindle this relationship with his daughter from a movie 17 years ago where it was a different Hulk. It literally was a different actor, Ed Norton. And the fact that because of rights issues, there hasn't been a Hulk movie, yet this is literally a Hulk movie, but instead of Bruce Banner in the lead, it is Captain America. That's literally what it is. And the political thriller aspect of it, what they tried to do with the Captain America element, like they did in Winter Soldier, failed miserably. It's just, we were never invested in these storylines, and we already had questions about Captain America going forward, going into this movie. It was just like, crap, like Kevin Feige, Nate Moore, like what are we thinking? Like it was just a total misjudgment. And I don't know, on paper, again, this was rewritten a bunch of times, but it doesn't matter because whatever you did at the start, clearly you were misled.
It feels like Marvel didn't believe in this Captain America. And I think the approach to this movie was wrong, like filling it with a bunch of villains, and they're all Hulk villains. I think you should have had multiple heroes in this movie. And you want to like kind of show that Anthony Mackie could be the center of the Avengers, put him alongside other heroes here. And we don't believe that he can take on the Red Hulk. I think that was a mistake for the third act of this movie. First off, the trailer showed you what the third act was going to be, but having Captain America take on Red Hulk, you're like, okay, there's going to have to be a shortcut they take in order for this Captain America to take down the Red Hulk. I think it would have been great if he was already working with some of the current heroes we have in the MCU. Try and get us prepared for Doomsday, and then center Captain America, the movie, on like, is this a guy that can lead the Avengers? You know, to me, that's like a more interesting story, and you don't have to worry about him shouldering the entire goddamn thing. But yeah, just totally felt like the MCU didn't believe in him. And honestly, it seemed like the plot of the movie, or at least the writing of the movie, was devoted towards one of the villains. It was Thaddeus Ross with the emotional beats, right? Him trying to rekindle his relationship with his daughter. And it felt like Captain America was like second fiddle in his own movie. He was like second fiddle, and it was just him once again. Am I worthy to carry the mantle? It's like you're just carrying over the same thing from Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So I thought just the approach to the movie was wrong. And I also talk about like the rewrites and the tumultuous lead up to this movie. Like that, the first half of this movie was so bad. The first half. The second half was coherent, I thought, to a point. But the first half, I felt it was so pieced together. It had zero flow to it. The dialogue was all exposition. It didn't seem like actual humans talking. It was literally trying to catch you up with what happened in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's trying to catch you up with Thaddeus Ross and his relationship to the Avengers, what happened with the Incredible Hulk, right? Things like that are just nonstop dialogue. It was like absolutely unlistenable. It was really bad. It starts to find a groove, right, in the last two acts of the movie, but the first like 25 minutes I thought was, it made me want to kind of throw up. It was like, this is just disgusting, and it feels like it's just trying to keep everyone up to date with the timeline of events in the MCU.
The universe has collapsed on itself. It's like we
Yeah.
have to explain everything. We always complain with the Disney Plus shows in Marvel that it was like, "Oh, this is homework." You know what? We have done our homework. We don't need to explain every single thing going on, you know? And you know my thing, I've said it before about title cards. There's title cards in this movie when literally in the line before, in the scene before, they tell you where they're going. And then the next scene is there and they show a title card. Like for example, the Celestial. They literally said, we're going, all right, we're going to Celestial Island or whatever in the Indian Ocean. Next picture you see is the Celestial in the ocean, and it says Celestial Island. It's like, holy shnikes. They do that, but in dialogue throughout this movie about what has happened in the past. You have Danny Ramirez's character, the new Falcon, he is literally only there for exposition. And I feel like from what we saw in Falcon the Winter Soldier, and even in this movie a little bit, I didn't like him a lot, but a lot of it is because of the dialogue. And I feel like he had a lot of charisma that could have been, brought out. Like he's dancing in the beginning of this movie, which I thought was cringe. But that type of character, you could kind of get something good out of that MCU charm out of that type of character. But you didn't have that in this movie because of the writing and how poor the dialogue was. And I don't want to say anyone was bad in this movie because of how bad the dialogue was. So I'm gonna like opt out of saying like acting was bad in this movie. I don't think they had a fair shake.
Yeah. I think there were moments where like Anthony Mackie got to kind of like show his stuff. And this will be a spoiler review. So I'm just going to preface that now as we continue because
You're seeing the trailer, you're seeing the movie.
but I think like the best moments with Sam Wilson are when he's one-on-one and he's like kind of opening up to a Bucky Barnes, to a Sebastian Stan who shows up in this movie. When he's opening up to a Falcon, like with the Joaquin Torres character, Danny Ramirez. I think those moments, the humanization of the heroes, like are missing, and it feels like they're just kind of fit in random spots. But the Joaquin Torres character, it was just all this exposition dumped with him at the beginning, and then he'll just try and add a joke to remind you this is a fun movie. It'll be something, all these kick-ass like action sequences that are decent, but they don't flow well, right, from scene to scene. But he all of a sudden is dancing and he's making these jokes. I didn't smile at one thing he said. None
I
of it was
one
funny.
time in this movie.
It was cringy. It was cringy. He also kind of felt like this is random what he's doing compared to what we've seen so far with the beats that are trying to channel Captain America, the Winter Soldier. That's where it's serious political thriller, and you kind of have that in the second half of this movie, but the first half is so all over the place. It drove me insane. And there's also scenes where you could tell they're out of order. First of all, you could tell Giancarlo is all of a sudden showing up here. The second scene that he shows up feels like seems like a worthless scene just so Captain America can talk to the leader. But there is a scene where Isaiah Bradley is imprisoned, and all of a sudden he has long hair, right? And it's Sam Wilson talking to him, right? Gets 5 minutes, and he's got like curls going all over the place. And you're like, how much time has passed since he tried to assassinate the president? And then like the next scene that you see Isaiah Bradley, he's talking with the Sabra character, and he has like a short buzz cut. And I'm like, one of these scenes came way after, and they didn't even bother to change any of the details. That was just an obvious example, along with the Giancarlo, that they're just kind of like fitting stuff in, they're piecing things together, and you could just feel that this movie was not cohesive, right? I felt that from the first act, and with the Isaiah Bradley stuff, all that's it kind of was blatant.
Yeah, I would agree. This felt like not only from that perspective, but also from the exposition heavy or dumps that we got in this movie. This felt like an MCU mandated, directed, led movie. Like the MCU led this movie, like Feige and
It's a
those guys.
machine movie.
Yeah, machine movie. Yeah, and like I do still put some consequence, or what's the word I'm looking for there? Some responsibility on the director here, Julius, I forget his name.
Ona?
Everest, whatever. Because there are aspects where you could have made this look cool. Like some of these set pieces could have been cool. And I think a lot of them were CGI ugly and pretty boring. That was a lot of this movie. It was boring, particularly the first half, where at least in like Thor Love and Thunder, for example, There's some interesting things in that movie that I was like, "Oh, that's Taika Waititi. That's a talented filmmaker." The bad movie, but there's some stuff in there you could take out and be like, "Oh, that's interesting." Or like Christian Bale, like, "Oh, yeah, that's a great performance." But there's a couple interesting like ways that Taika like depicted gore, right? It's just like here you had nothing. You had absolutely nothing. And if you could feel the MCU saying you have to do this, you could feel the rewrites here, you could feel the reshoots there. And for an average, or not average fan, but like I guess like someone that doesn't know as much as like a Taika Waititi, and we can notice that, that's a terrible sign for a movie that's has been the cog of Hollywood for the past 15 years.
Yeah, this felt like a MCU machine movie. It has like 5 different writers on it. The 5 different writers, like none of them have had a successful project. None of them. It is absolutely bananas to look at, like them piecing this together. The 5 writers, just like you saw 5 writers for Deadpool and Wolverine. You just know the script's not going to be good, especially after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You're looking for a little bit of depth, and this movie like had no depth. When I was thinking about just the emotional stakes and the scene with Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson, and when they're talking about what's the difference between his Captain America and Steve, it was Captain America, Steve Rogers, was someone people could believe in. And then Sam Wilson is someone they can aspire to be because he is the Captain America that didn't take the super soldier serum. And to kind of like bring that thing to bring that theme to a head, it was the final scene with Falcon when he's on the bed and Falcon's like, "I always wanted to be you, Sam," you know? And I'm just like, aren't you guys like almost the same age? Like, it's just like, maybe it'd be more effective if you had like, maybe Falcon was younger or you had a little kid. But I just thought the emotional beats for the center character just were noticeably absent or just half baked or half assed, you know? The writing with the dialogue and the themes, really bad in this movie, and especially with the way they ended the movie when they just decided to basically cop out and say that basically the cherry blossoms are going to stop Red Hulk from being Red Hulk, you know? And it has this like weak stabbing moment from Captain America against Red Hulk. I'm like, he didn't really take him down here. You needed more characters. The writing here was piss poor, honestly.
Yeah, that's a big problem with this Captain America without the super serum. Even with the super serum, it'll be tough for like a Steve Rogers to take down the Hulk. But without super serum, it's like this is so unbelievable. And we're relying on Falcons, like Sam Wilson, sorry. Um, Sam Wilson's like background when he was Falcon and being like this like counselor for PTSD and all the soldiers, like to kind of have that counselor effect here for the Hulk. Yes, we've seen that with the Hulk with like Natasha Romanoff and Age of Ultron, but it's like we can't just be saying this is how you defeat the Hulk.
Yeah.
It's just like in Superman, we can't just say kryptonite, 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 kryptonite. We got to change it up. We can't be doing this. And no offense to Sam Wilson, no relationship, like the relationship to Red Hulk and Thaddeus is not the same as Natasha and Bruce Banner at the time. So we can't just be doing this. It's honestly, like I wasn't surprised that they ended that way because you knew that like Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson was not going to beat Red Hulk, so they had to think of another way. And you could see like just by the setting, which again, poor CGI, was just like, all right, they're gonna freaking end it like this. It was very predictable, just like this entire movie was.
Yeah, entirely predictable. But I think the action sequence at the end you talk about, and like some people, their criticisms is like the CGI of the movie. There was a moment where Anthony Mackie's character, his Sam Wilson, is talking to the Red Hulk, and they flip to Sam, and it looks so jarring. And it was so blatantly like there's something wrong here or something unfinished here during that one-on-one. Threw me off completely. The White House does not look great when it's getting destroyed by Red Hulk. I think basically the first third act was when they go to, because there's 2 third acts of this movie. It's when they go to the Celestial Island, and there is some really cool sequences there in the air, and they let Falcon be Falcon. Like Captain America can't do the stuff that Falcon's doing there, right? Having Red Wing right next to him and seeing them like intercept the missiles, cutting like the wings of planes in half, that type of thing. I thought was like, wow, this is actually really cool. But when he's on top of the plane and you look at the background, it was really CGI heavy, and you can tell like this doesn't look entirely finished either, But I actually preferred that Celestial Island scene to the Red Hulk scene. I thought that was actually decent, and it gave Falcon something to do and him taking his job more seriously, a little bit more of emotional stakes there with Falcon going down. I actually like that scene for the most part.
I think I agree with you. It's just like when you look at the sky and when they're on the ship, it was just like, wow, that's CGI.
Yeah.
That's just so bad, And like at least with the Hulk, I thought the close-ups with Red Hulk were pretty good.
Close-ups, yes.
And the definition, I thought I was like, yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yes, I agree with you on the White House and whatnot. The blossoms, cherry blossoms. By the way, the first time they said that, like an hour earlier, I thought it was a band. Like I thought it was like I took her to see the cherry blossoms. I thought it was a band, the cherry blossoms, like a made up band. I didn't know the cherry blossoms like a big thing in DC. I'm not from DC, sorry, but yeah. And I wanted to say another thing with the Red Hulk scene. So like he's jumping, dude. I want to go back to Ang Lee's Eric Bana's Hulk. I think that desert running scene might look better.
Really? Just for then him like a video game type look that they had, like the side angle of him like going across the White House here.
I don't know. I was obviously I was 5 when I saw that movie in theaters, so like obviously I wouldn't be able to, if I was 5 years old seeing this movie, I wouldn't be able to tell. But I don't know. Ang Lee, I think would do a good job at least trying to direct that versus this what we got. I don't know.
Yeah, at least you got like a credible filmmaker, as opposed to like Julius Ona here and all like these different ragtag group of writers. The celestial scene also built in from Eternals. That was something where it's also weird that finally we're addressing the celestial in the middle of the island, but it's in a Captain America movie that also has 2008 Incredible Hulk villains. That to me also, it's like we're just trying to prove that these movies still matter. Like 2 movies that are largely forgotten or kind of panned when it comes to the Marvel Pantheon, like '08 Incredible Hulk, recently 2021's Eternals. No, these events still matter, I did think the adamantium inside the Celestial is cool because it could tease the future, right? But they didn't really say much else about the adamantium aside from it being a valuable resource. So that's where I'm also looking at this movie. I want to get excited about the future of the MCU. Maybe you tease something about the adamantium, how else it can be used, and rather than it just be this valuable piece of resource that is worth going to war for. I just was hoping for a little more juice there.
Yeah, and now that we've seen the movie, I think this movie only used that to kind of like say, oh, the X-Men are coming, and to give this movie a little bit more juice. As spoiled it for our bullet prediction, they did not introduce the Weapon X program.
It was such a good opportunity with that adamantium that was in the canister that was retrieved by the U.S. government. I'm like, wow, this is going to be the start of the Weapon X program.
But it does make sense why they didn't say that though. And why I say that is because in Captain Marvel or the Marvel's post-credit scene, the X-Men are on an alternate universe. And we talked about in the past how the X-Men, that'd be kind of tough if they just get thrown into the 616 when obviously mutants is a huge storyline in the comics across all of Marvel, right? All heroes, mutants, and what's going on and politically. So it's going to be hard to just throw the X-Men on the 616. So they'll probably keep it on a separate universe. So that program probably doesn't exist on the 616 because there's not going to be a Wolverine from the 616. It's going to be from a different universe. So this adamantium, yes, there's adamantium on 2 different universes of Earth, but one Earth has the X-Men and one doesn't. One's just adamantium for, Wolverine, Logan, and one's for, trying to cure cancer or something.
I think there's a good chance that there's going, like we talk about the X-Men are too big. They need their own world. But I think when we're post Secret Wars and we're post Doomsday, I think that we're going to be absent from a lot of heroes. I think the 616 will have X-Men. That will be my my prediction there. But let's talk about some of these characters because we talked about the center of the movie. It kind of is Thunderbolt Ross. Like to me, you could have renamed this under Thunderbolt Ross
Red
because a Red Hulk movie, and I want to know what you think about Harrison Ford because he's replacing William Hurt from multiple appearances. I think the last time he appeared was in a post-credit scene for Black Widow. William Hurt tragically passes away. Who takes up the mantle? Harrison Ford. How do you think he did in this movie?
It's a tough one. I don't think he was bad. I think he's getting some flack online. I don't think it was bad. He's just doing it for the paycheck, even though he might have. I still think he has that Harrison Fordness where I was bought in, but I don't know if that was the acting or just his presence. So I think that is like one thing. And the other thing, like I said up the top, it's like this dude's like Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy movies, Clear and Present Danger mixed with Air Force One. He's trying to do something like that. And although it's not working entirely, I still see that because I've seen those movies with this guy, so it's like, all right, like I believe it. So I think it was fine. Like I like that's a long-winded answer to say I think it was fine. But it just might not be because of what I saw on the screen, but just because of his past.
I think he had moments in this movie. I don't think he was bad. I think the scene where they went back in time and they gave him a mustache, that was a bad
Why?
That was bad. That was bad. And I think scenes with him on the bike on Air Force One, also bad. But there's other times where he is talking with Samuel Stearns, the leader. And it's like during that Celestial Island scene, and he seems to be turning into the Hulk. Are they going to give us the Red Hulk or not? I think that was pretty good physical acting. It seemed like Harrison Ford was like all in on those scenes. I like that. And I think other times I'm thinking they're giving Harrison Ford, one of the greatest action stars of all time, just a bunch of exposition dumping about the MCU. Like when he's standing in front of everyone talking about adamantium and the Celestials, things that happened in Eternals, him explaining why he had to shave his mustache because William Hurt is no longer Thunderbolt Ross. And the teasing of like Sam Wilson, work with me. I know we don't see eye to eye. I tried to hunt you down during the Sokovia Accords. It's like Harrison Ford wasn't like General Ross during that. So that threw me off. I'm like, I don't believe what you're saying because you weren't Thunderbolt Ross at that time, So it felt like historically, I don't know if Harrison Ford honestly was the best actor to do this job because he seems so apathetic, right? When he's not on screen about like comic book movies, he talks about literally chasing a check. So when he's doing that, I don't believe what he's saying. What do you say? What do you think about that?
Damn, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think about that, but now when you say that, he is pretty outspoken. Not as like much as like Scorsese and how much he hates the MCU, but like he does say that a lot. For when I watched it though, I didn't get that. But now looking back on it, after you saying that, yeah, that does hurt me a little bit. That does.
I don't know. It's in the back of my mind. I'm like, he's saying this, but like he is just being told to. It was like this guy's cue cards like behind Anthony Mackie's head right now. Like he's just.
But like at the same time, Harrison Ford's so likable. Like everyone loves Indiana Jones. Everyone loves Han Solo. So you're gonna love him in this.
Yes, I know. Just like knowing the mechanics of the MCU and everything that goes around it. Like how many MCU movies has Harrison Ford ever watched? I think the answer is zero. I think the answer would be zero.
I would like to say one.
I would say maybe Captain America, Winter Soldier. Maybe to
I would say maybe either Iron Man or Endgame. Just like
Endgame
ones.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Oh, he's prepared for Thunderbolt Ross. Maybe he watched Civil War.
Oh, actually, he definitely didn't. He didn't watch anything to prepare for this. He was like, I know how to play the president.
He kind of he embodied Thunderbolt Ross, though. I think like going aside the MCU stuff and what's happening in the world. I thought like he was the guy who's like kind of war hungry, who is vengeful, but at the same time he showed an emotional side of Thunderbolt Ross that we had never seen before. And that's where this movie felt like we're devoting a lot of time to Thunderbolt Ross to go into the events that happened in 2008's The Incredible Hulk, the separation between him and Liv Tyler. I honestly thought Liv Tyler was going to show up during the final battle where she would talk down the Red Hulk. And that's why I was going to tap you. I'm like, I can't believe we didn't predict this. Like she's going to be the one to end the battle. But she really has limited presence in the movie. It's like her on a phone call with him saying, yeah, we'll take a walk by the cherry blossoms. That's before he becomes the Red Hulk again. And with that phone call, I'm like, this sounds so fake. It sounds like Liv Tyler has no, I don't know, no charisma. And then like, robot. it was like AI. It kind of felt like AI. They like Liv Tyler say hello to or whatever Betty Ross say hi to your dad after not talking to him for 20 years. You know, he's a goddamn president. To then have her show up at the end of the movie and maybe the worst 30-second cameo in the history of the MCU. It was like, even in 30 seconds, I'm like, this is awful. This is terrible. Like, it's so cringy. And once again, just ties the movie. Everything comes back to Thunderbolt Ross rather than Captain America, you know? But wasn't a fan of that. Where else do we want to go? We can talk about some of these other characters. Giancarlo Esposito, so like overqualified to play this this character, and it doesn't seem like someone that should be keeping on like reappearing in this movie, but somehow like has 3 or 4 scenes after kind of being irrelevant after the first one, you know, keep showing up and it's almost like a consultant for Captain America. I just think Giancarlo Esposito should not be playing Sidewinder, and they keep referencing the Serpent Society as if we should actually care about them. Just an unnecessary plot point of the movie to me.
Completely agree. And this is one of the ones of the reshoots. Like they added Giancarlo and the Sidewinder. I almost said Serpent Society. They added Sidewinder to try to help with the exposition, like you said earlier with the leader in Captain America intro. That's basically why they added this character.
A weird one-on-one fight scene. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So weird.
So, yeah, that's definitely overqualification for Giancarlo, but a nice quick paycheck. And he was himself. It's not like he mailed it in. I think he was just himself. So, again, like I feel like he also was a lot of exposition. Like think about the final scene he's in when he's in handcuffs talking to Sam Wilson. He's like, yes, Samuel Stern got exposed to Bruce Banner's blood,
like gamma radiation.
But he did not gain the strength of the Hulk. He got he's like super smart, whatever. I did a pretty good job till then. But he like went through that whole exposition dump to say all that. It's just like, dude, we're never gonna see you again.
Yeah, I just like Giancarlo Esposito has been teased for so many different roles in the MCU, and he is an exposition dump in Captain America: Brave New World, and he is the 3rd villain. And they're teasing him like, "I will get out of here. I will escape." No one wants to see this character again, and like they're keeping it open just because it's Giancarlo Esposito, and they probably paid him so much money to do this small part. You know, and that's probably why he said yes to it. So stinks. That's what we got for Giancarlo. We talked about Danny Ramirez already. At times has good chemistry with Sam Wilson. Definitely not in the first 25 minutes. Like that combination of Isaiah Bradley, Sam Wilson, Joaquin Torres, just weird, you know, just did not feel right. And every time that there was a joke for Falcon to Isaiah Bradley, it was the cringiest thing of all time. It's just like, I feel empty when they are together on screen. Just really, really rough.
The flag scene, that was tough. That was really bad.
Yeah.
And after I saw that, I was actually like I was thinking about our bold predictions. I'm like, crap, are they only showing this to say that will Isaiah Bradley come in do something with Sam Wilson at the end of this movie, just like you were trying to put it on our predictions? And I'm like, am I gonna freaking like regret denying Doc on the bold predictions pod? But no, they didn't, and rightly so.
The leader, by the way, we haven't talked about him. His look is something that was the only surprise of the movie to me. Just like a reveal, at least, like something that they did not show in the trailer. I can't wait to see what the leader looks like because he's such a weird looking guy in the comic books. That was interesting to say the least. I feel like everything else, everything was predictable. Red Hulk was the 3rd act. He was the 3rd act to the movie. So it's like they just told you everything. But he kind of looked to me like Dr. Doom in 2015's Fantastic Four with Tony Kebbell with like the green eyes. To me, that's what I kept thinking of. Felt like he was just wearing a weird mask, but he seemed like he was a very smart guy. Felt like it, once again, it was a plot that is determined on gaining revenge on Thunderbolt Ross, for Thunderbolt Ross keeping him in that prison and then using his knowledge to President Ross's advantage. It just felt like, once again, this villain is not built to be fighting Captain America, right? It's built to be fighting Thunderbolt Ross. What do you think of the leader, if anything?
To start with the look, it's like they were trying to avoid the Green Lantern, Skarsgård, Hammond look, the big head. They were trying to avoid that, but still be comic booky when we're again in a movie that's a Captain America movie. So I don't know. They didn't find a good balance for me with that. Like
It's
it
hard to
feels
be
like
it was hard to be comic accurate. They can't give him like a 5-foot forehead.
right.
And last time they did that with a face was Quantum Mania with the return of Corey Stoll, and he was what was that character's name?
MODOK.
MODOK. Like that was jarring. I think they kind of are trying to learn from their mistakes, and we'll make this a little more almost look like it was from Secret Invasion. Like it could be from Secret Invasion. I could see that from like a Marvel TV show, but it was an interesting look, but it's definitely not much. It's just not able to work with much, I think.
But like, they were trying to make it subtle, but still have like the bumps on the head and kind of disgusting on top. It's like, dude, just do the forehead and that's it, and green. That's
But
all you need to do.
But he showed up to talk with Sam Wilson and like in DC, and he's just not wearing his hat. I'm like, whoa. Like, I feel like more people would be looking at this guy. I know like people don't want to judge, but I feel like that's a quick like head turner.
For me, the big like this character's reveal is kind of symbolic of the movie because they did such a good job hiding what this guy, the leader, actually looks like. Like in all the trailers, we never got to look at him. Even in the first hour of the movie, and we were introduced to him multiple times, it was just a shadow of him on the phone or talking to Sam Wilson in the dark. We never actually got a good look at him, right? And the fact that you gave away everything else in the movie, including your final like climax, like of the Red Hulk, it's just like symbolic of like they were just so not going in the right direction. They just judged this terribly, where they gave away the movie, and instead we're so focused on let's hide the look of the leader. It's just it's shocking to me.
And the marketing told me that they don't believe in Captain America, this Sam Wilson rendition of Captain America, because they gave away that Red Hulk is the third act. Like that tells me we need to sell tickets. Sam Wilson as Captain America will not sell tickets. Like we can hide the leader because I mean no one cares that much about the leader, but at the same time, hardcore comic book fans want to see the leader. But if you see the Red Hulk, you're like, oh, I got to see this movie. But he's the final villain. Like that's the final act. That's it. It's that moment. And there's only one scene with Red Hulk, just like you correctly predicted. So it's like something you should wait for the theatrical experience. But every moment of that fight, you get a piece of in at least one of the trailers, which is insane. So I think this movie, the marketing is a huge hole. And it showed me that even the MCU and Disney do not believe in Captain America leading his own movie as they're releasing it.
Yeah, and this movie also is just indicative of they are victims of their success and also to their budget and Disney themselves, and they need to make money. The MCU is no longer focused on making good films. This movie is a clear example of you have one of your core Avengers in a movie and you have no faith in them, and it's just an exposition dump, CGI heavy, and you're just giving away the movie in the trailer because you're worried that you're not going to make back your budget. That's a huge red flag for a core Avenger movie. And it's just indicative of where they are right now. And if this is back like 10 years ago, we wouldn't have gotten this. They would have focused on the story. They are no longer story focused, character focused. They are focused on the universe, trying to build up, like they mentioned, the adamantium. Just basically in this movie, just say, hey, the X-Men are coming. You might want to see this movie. They mentioned Red Hulk because it's like, oh, hey, Red Hulk's in this. You should see this movie. Not because of your lead character.
Yeah. There was nothing special to it, nothing deep about it. And I like the skepticism of your government theme of like Winter Soldier, I think hit with people. Okay. With that time period when it came out, this one, I don't know. It says, I guess it's talking about presidents and like acting for personal motivation, behind closed doors, like power that the president wields and what is he doing with that power maybe. But honestly, it just wasn't that deep, bro. The whole movie just wasn't that deep. I thought the plot itself was pretty simplistic compared to like a Captain America Winter Soldier. And this movie felt like just kind of a JV version of that. It followed very similar beats. I mean, the Red Hulk is definitely a big one, but the big difference. But I thought it was a movie that was kind of trying to say, hey, this is supposed to be similar to it, but it just felt like a JV version. Where else do we want to go, Ricky Flex? Any redeeming qualities that we haven't brought up? I know I like the Celestial Island scene for the most part, and I think that Bucky Barnes scene is pretty good. And it's letting Anthony Mackie cook a little bit, show that chemistry between him and Bucky. But any other redeeming qualities to this movie?
The Bucky scene would have been my answer just because that's something that we've seen before. We know it works from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It felt genuine versus a lot of this movie felt forced, mainly because the dialogue was forced with all the exposition. I guess the look of the Red Hulk. I like the up close look of the Red Hulk. Like there was a lot of CGI questions of this movie, and rightly so. A lot of them were answered, and they failed. I think the one thing that they actually kind of nailed was the Red Hulk intro.
Yeah, yeah. The scenes where even on Celestial Island, like I said, like him like becoming the Red Hulk a little bit, the red eyes, and then him listening to like that narration basically by Samuel Stearns. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm leaning into this. And as that's happening, the huge aerial fight that's happening with basically the two Falcons, I'm like, this is working pretty well. But it's then a second, third act that comes along that kind of says like that having a second like big battle at the end, it said like, okay, like we need to have Red Hulk to provide some juice here, right? It's not enough just to have Anthony Mackie flying through the air on the Celestial Island. It has to come down to Red Hulk entirely. I mean, I wouldn't say it's unnecessary, but like it feels just odd that a Captain America movie came down to Red Hulk as its core. Okay. You want to do scores and then post credit?
Yeah, there's a couple. I have a couple questions as
All
well.
right, yeah. So why don't we ask this now before we hit our score?
Where does we famously have done the MCU tiers? Where does this fall? Right, the tiers, just to remind people, we have the God level, we have the Hall of Fame, we have the All Stars, we have Solid, and then we have the rejects. I would like to make the proposition this is a reject.
I think it is too. It's a reject. It doesn't seem like a strong Captain America movie. What else is in the rejects? Because I got to see what it's comparable to.
So, like, for example, Black Widow's in the rejects. Is this better than Black Widow?
Probably not.
I don't think so. Eternals is in the rejects. Is this better than Eternals?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Thor: Love and Thunder is a reject.
I think
before.
this is better than Thor: Love and Thunder, I think.
You like this better than Thor: Love and Thunder. Wow.
I didn't like Thor: Love and Thunder at all.
What about Quantum Mania? That's also a reject.
I
like Kang.
I would rate these two similarly if I had to do it right now.
How about the Marvels? Most recent?
No, it's not. I would rather watch this movie.
I would agree. It's close, but I would agree. Okay.
What's the one just above the rejects?
Huh?
What's the tier right above the rejects?
Solid. So like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Ant-Man, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I wouldn't put this with those movies. I think it's a step down from all those.
I would agree. All those movies had something to say. This one doesn't have anything. Like the redeeming qualities we said, there's not enough redeeming qualities for it to be solid.
Yeah. I think now look at the scores and then we'll do post credit and we'll evaluate our predictions, which is always heartbreaking but also funny. But I'm giving this a 40. This is a 40 out of 100.
33.
33. Wow. This is probably the lowest combined score that we've had for an MCU movie.
I also have this question too now that we did scores and now that we said them. I think the MCU, I think they no longer, let me rephrase this. So we didn't see Kraven the Hunter, okay, but we saw Madam Web last year. And Madam Web's the worst movie, okay? But I think the MCU, we need to consider that their floor is close to Madam Web in the Sonyverse. We can't have like, oh, the The MCU is reliable. I think that's out of the picture now. They're unpredictable now.
Oh, they've been so inconsistent since Endgame, obviously. The highs aren't even very high. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is high, but is it better than the first Guardians of the Galaxy? No, in my opinion. What else is a high? Deadpool Wolverine, is that a high? That's the thing, is like Deadpool Wolverine, also like overall the script is so bad. But was it entertaining and was it a fun ride? Yes. This is the type of movie that is like the script is really bad and it's just not fun. That's why it's a reject.
Like the Venom movies, like the latest, like Venom, The Last Dance, I thought was better than this by a lot.
I don't know. Like I thought the third act of Venom: The Last Dance was good. I think it was emotionally hijacking me big
You were
time.
invested though,
The first two acts I thought were really bad.
but
I
you
don't
were
know.
invested in Tom Hardy's Venom.
But the thing is, like, those movies are bad because they're bad. This is like really bad because it's a victim of being a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're using all the dialogue to explain what is circling this movie, what has impacted the events that happen in this movie. Those type of like criticisms aren't available to the Venom movies. They're just bad.
But all right, last thing before the post credit. I'm sorry, I'm belaboring this. Let me read off the movies since basically Eternals, because this is the Celestial. Let's name up all the movies since Eternals. So Shang-Chi, No Way Home, okay, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever, Quantum Mania, Guardians 3, The Marvels, Deadpool and Wolverine, Captain America: Brave New World. Out of all of those, we have one all-star in our tier, which is the third tier, and that's No Way Home. Oh, sorry, we have that. Maybe there's one above, but all the others are solid to rejects.
Except we didn't do Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That'd be an all-star to me.
Okay. But my point is, like, that's a bad hit rate. That's a really bad hit rate. And I think this one was one where you have Captain America. It's kind of a reset and kind of the end of this phase. And we're about to enter phase 6 with Fantastic Four this summer. We only have Thunderbolts left in phase 5. And it's like, this just felt like a new low.
Yeah, this felt like a low, but I don't think destroys us because I think there are some very exciting projects. This one had such negative energy around it for months now, months and months. Like no one is surprised that this movie's not good. There's hope for Thunderbolts. Like the trailers are not giving away things that, or the third act, or like the motivations of the characters, like Brave New World did. It feels like the promotion, they have much more faith in that movie. So I'm excited. Daredevil is interesting because Daredevil seems like it suffered from a lot of the things Brave New World did with rewrites, right? And it's going to be latching onto something older, right? With the original Netflix series, just like they're latching onto 08 Incredible Hulk for Brave New World. So I don't know. I'm less confident with Captain America, honestly. With Daredevil than I am with like the upcoming two movies. I think the two movies are going to be better overall projects than Daredevil.
I want to agree, but they already greenlit season 2. I feel like they know what they got there. I think they recaptured the Daredevil Netflix charm. They've lost the MCU charm in this movie, but they recaptured the Netflix Daredevil charm, I think, and they know it. Like this one didn't even have the like Brave New World didn't have the opening MCU credits. You notice that? Is that a sign that they had no faith in this?
This would be if it was a TV show like Marvel Spotlight banner. But I want to see. Maybe it was our theater because I don't remember the Marvel logo flashing for the beginning.
No, I looked it up after. So our theater was weird. We only had one trailer, is the Fantastic Four trailer, and then it jumped into the movie, and they didn't have the Marvel opening credits. But I looked it up. Obviously, it's weird for our theater to only have one trailer, but no, there were no opening MCU credits for this movie in any theater.
That's insane. That tells me like they're disowning the movie.
It's a Marvel Spotlight. You were right.
This is not our son. Yeah, that's disrespectful. Like for a Captain America movie, like Sam, they don't believe in Sam Wilson. They don't believe in him.
This guy's supposed to be like restarting the Avengers, and you're not even having the MCU opening credits.
It's also insane that he basically he wants to restart the Avengers, and his first offer is to Falcon. And I'm just like, you're offering an Avengers spot to this guy, Falcon, this corny ass kid. who said that you're his hero. You can't do that. And also, he got shot down. Like he was in critical condition an hour ago, and he's the first member of the Avengers. Who would be the first call?
Thor, most powerful Avenger.
But on the 616 right now. Remember, Sam Wilson, human.
Hulk, then right after Red Hulk.
You think Hulk, with old age,
is an ally? But like that, God, that also really grinds my gears. This is the same Sam Wilson. They mentioned Ant-Man twice in this, who lost to Ant-Man.
And weird fascination with Ant-Man.
Because he lost to Ant-Man, and because Ant-Man had to like break into the Avengers facility. So,
right.
Like,
in Ant-Man.
Falcon.
But like the guy Falcon says, I want to be you, but he keeps bringing up Ant-Man. You know? I don't know.
Just trying to make a jab at Sam because he lost to Ant-Man.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Because they did it multiple times in this movie.